Imagine coming home to find your locks changed and your sister sleeping in your bed, all because your parents decided your hard-earned house was actually family property. They handed her the keys behind your back, thinking they'd forced you into a corner, but they didn't know one crucial detail. I had already sold the place 2 weeks ago. My name is Mark, and for years I was the reliable son, the one who worked 60-hour weeks while my sister, Chloe, spent her days finding herself on my parents' dime. When I finally bought my dream home, a sleek, modern place on the edge of the city, I thought I had finally made it. I didn't realize that in my parents' eyes, my success was just an untapped resource for their favorite child. This is a story about how entitlement can destroy a family and why sometimes the only way to win is to walk away from the game entirely. If you've ever been told that family comes first just so someone could take advantage of you, then you know exactly how I felt. But the look on their faces when the new owner showed up with a police escort? That was worth every penny I lost on the quick sale. Growing up, the hierarchy in our house was crystal clear. Chloe was the creative spirit, which was just code for someone who never held a job for more than 3 months and expected a standing ovation for waking up before noon. I, on the other hand, was the sturdy one. I started mowing lawns at 12, worked through college, and climbed the corporate ladder until I was making more than both my parents combined. My parents, David and Mary, treated my career like a collective family achievement. Every time I got a promotion, they'd call me, not to congratulate me, but to ask if I could help out Chloe with her car payments or her latest business venture that inevitably failed. When I bought my house, the pressure reached a boiling point. They didn't see a young man's first home. They saw a free hotel for Chloe, who was currently living in their basement and driving them crazy. They started dropping hints immediately. "It's such a big house for just one person, Mark," my mom would say during Sunday dinner. "Think of how much Chloe could save if she stayed in your guest room for a while." I told them no, repeatedly and firmly. I wanted my own space, my own life, and the right to walk around my own living room without tripping over Chloe's laundry. The breaking point came when Chloe accidentally let herself into my apartment before I moved into the house. She had taken my spare key from my parents' house, which I'd left there for emergencies, and decided she needed a place to host a small gathering. I came home to find 3 strangers on my sofa and a red wine stain on my rug. My parents didn't scold her. They scolded me for being unwelcoming. That was the moment I realized that as long as they had access to my life, they would never respect my boundaries. They viewed my property as an extension of theirs. So when I finally moved into the new house, I was extra careful. I changed the locks, installed a high-tech security system, and made it clear that nobody was getting a key. But my parents are master manipulators. A month after I moved in, my dad called me with a sob story about a plumbing emergency at their place. He asked if he could stay at my house for a few days while the repairs were done. Against my better judgment, I gave him a key. It was a mistake that would set the stage for the ultimate betrayal, but also my ultimate escape. I soon found out that my father wasn't using the key for a plumbing emergency. I started getting notifications from my doorbell camera. Chloe was there. My parents were there. They were bringing in boxes when they thought I was at work. They weren't just visiting, they were moving her in, piece by piece, behind my back. When I confronted them, they didn't even apologize. My mom looked me straight in the eye and said, "Mark, we're a family. Chloe needs a win and you have so much. It's selfish of you to keep this whole house to yourself when your sister is struggling. We decided she'll stay in the basement suite. You won't even know she's there." I was livid. I told them to get her out immediately or I'd call the police. My dad just laughed. "You wouldn't call the cops on your own father, Mark. Don't be dramatic. Just be a man and help your sister." That was the final straw. I realized then that I could never live in that house in peace. They would always have a way in, and they would always feel entitled to my life. So I did something they never expected. I called a real estate agent I knew who specialized in fast, cash-only sales to investors. I told him I wanted the house gone in 14 days. The sale moved at lightning speed. Because the house was in a prime location and I was willing to take a slightly lower price for a quick closing, an investment group snapped it up. They wanted to turn it into a high-end rental property. The beauty of it was that I didn't tell a soul. I spent those 2 weeks quietly packing my essentials and putting the rest in storage. I moved into a luxury high-rise apartment with 24-hour security and a lobby that requires a key fob to just get into the elevator, a place my parents could never talk their way into. On the day of the closing, I handed over the keys to the new owners, a no-nonsense property management team. I knew my parents still had that emergency key, and I knew exactly what they were planning. They had told me they were taking Chloe on a mini vacation to clear her head, but my security cameras showed they were actually just waiting for me to leave on my scheduled business trip so they could officially move the rest of her furniture in. I let them think they were winning. I even sent a text to the family group chat saying, "Leaving for the airport now, see you guys in a week." The trap was set. 2 days into my trip, I logged into my security app. I didn't have access to the house's internal cameras anymore since I'd handed over the system, but I still had my old Ring account linked to the external floodlights, which the new owners hadn't replaced yet. I watched as my parents' SUV pulled into the driveway. They looked so smug. My dad hopped out and used his key to open the front door. Chloe was right behind him, carrying a massive floor lamp and a box of shoes. They were laughing, probably talking about how Mark would just have to get over it once he saw how settled she was. They spent the next 4 hours moving her entire life into my former home. They even brought over a housewarming banner and taped it to the fireplace. They felt completely untouchable, convinced that family was a shield that protected them from any consequences. They didn't realize that the house they were standing in didn't belong to a family member anymore. It belonged to a corporation with a very strict policy on squatters. The fireworks started around 6 p.m. I had given the new owners a heads up that unauthorized guests might try to gain entry, but I didn't tell them it was my family. I just said I had concerns about the previous occupants. A large white van pulled into the driveway, the property management's maintenance and security team. Along with them was a local locksmith and 2 police officers. The new owners aren't individuals. They are a company that doesn't care about family dynamics. They saw people inside a property they had just paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for, and they acted accordingly. From my camera, I saw my dad open the door, looking confused. He started gesturing wildly, probably explaining that his son owned the house. I could almost hear him saying, "There's been a mistake. I'm the owner's father." But the property manager held up the deed and the sales contract. The police didn't care about my dad's story. They saw a man with a key that didn't match the new legal ownership of the building. The scene turned into a full-blown circus. Chloe came running to the door in her pajamas, screaming about her rights. My mom arrived 10 minutes later in her own car, adding more noise. The neighbors were all out on their porches watching the reliable Marks family get escorted out of a house in handcuffs. My dad was frantically calling my cell phone, over and over. I let it ring. Then I got a series of increasingly desperate texts. "Mark, pick up. There are people here saying they bought the house. Tell them they're wrong. The police are threatening to arrest Chloe." I waited until they were all standing on the sidewalk, their boxes and Chloe's floor lamp piled up on the lawn in the rain, before I finally sent a single message back to the group chat. I attached a PDF of the final settlement statement and the sold notification from the real estate site. I wrote, "I told you to stay out of my house. Since you wouldn't listen, I found someone who would make you listen. I sold the house 2 weeks ago. I don't live there, and I don't live anywhere you'll ever find. Good luck with the move out." The fallout was spectacular. My parents tried to sue me, claiming I had stolen their peace of mind or some other nonsense, but my lawyer laughed them out of the room. I had sold a property that was 100% in my name, and they had illegally entered a home that didn't belong to them. They ended up having to pay a hefty fine to the property management company to avoid criminal charges for trespassing. Chloe had to move back to the basement, but this time my parents didn't have my income to subsidize her lifestyle. They had to downsize their own life just to keep her afloat.